What if your most frustrating patterns aren't blocks, but messages you haven't yet learned how to hear? If your subconscious could speak clearly, in language, not emotion, what would it say? Would it shout in panic? Would it break down in tears? Or would it whisper what it's been trying to say since the beginning? I'm not trying to stop you. I'm trying to protect you. You see, we've been trained to treat the subconscious like the enemy, as if it's the part of us that sabotages, resists, loops, and holds us back from manifesting the life we dream of. But the truth is far more compassionate. Your subconscious isn't here to punish you. It's here to preserve you. It is the oldest part of your inner world, the keeper of every moment you had to shrink to be safe. The archivist of the exact second you dimmed your light to avoid rejection. The guardian of the belief that invisibility is survival. And it didn't choose those codes because you were broken. It chose them because at one point they worked. They kept you accepted. They kept you out of trouble. They helped you adapt to chaos, to conditional love, to rooms that couldn't hold the fullness of you. So when you begin to grow, when you dare to shine, to speak, to rise, it's not that your subconscious doesn't want you to expand. It's that a deeper part of you still believes, if I change too fast, I won't be safe anymore. And that's the loop. Not because you're failing, but because your body is trying to hold on to what once felt like home, even if that home was scarcity, silence, or shame. The subconscious doesn't speak in affirmations. It speaks in repetition. It speaks through the relationship that keeps circling back. The opportunity that almost lands, then slips. The trigger that returns just when you thought you'd healed it. It speaks in tight chest and sudden hesitation. It speaks through delay, distraction, detachment. Not to block you, but to signal you. And here's where quantum truth comes in. The field doesn't respond to what you consciously want. It responds to what you consistently broadcast. Not with your words, but with your frequency. And what is your subconscious doing? It's broadcasting on repeat the exact beliefs that once kept you alive. So while your conscious mind is scripting abundance, your subconscious might still be pulsing out. It's not safe to be seen. This isn't resistance. It's rhythm. A rhythm you didn't choose, but one you now have the power to retune. And that's where we begin. Not by overriding the subconscious, but by honoring its message. By listening to the loop, not with shame, but with curiosity. Because once the subconscious is heard, it doesn't need to scream anymore. It softens, it integrates, and your frequency, your true signal, finally stabilizes. This isn't the start of your breakthrough. This is the breakthrough. The quantum field doesn't give you what you ask for. It mirrors what you are, especially when you're not watching. It's one of the most uncomfortable truths in spiritual alignment. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you broadcast. You can pray for abundance, script for love, speak declarations of purpose. Teach. But if your subconscious is still looping the vibration of abandonment, the field will reflect abandonment. Not to punish you, but to show you the exact frequency you're anchored to. Because the quantum field, like God, is faithful. It doesn't lie. It doesn't distort. It doesn't delay. It mirrors. And the mirror isn't just responding to your affirmations. It's responding to your residue. the emotions you carry when no one's looking, the cellular memory in your breath, your posture, your nervous system, the energy you radiate when your mouth is silent but your body is screaming. The problem isn't that you're broken. It's that your signal is fragmented. The mind wants to rise, but the body still flinches. The words say, "I'm ready," but the subconscious is whispering, "It's not safe yet." This is why many people feel like they're doing all the right things, but nothing shifts. It's not that you're failing. It's that the field is reflecting what's unresolved, not what's recited. And this is not cruelty. It's coherence. Because the field isn't a genie, it's an amplifier. It takes the loudest, clearest frequency in your system and magnifies it back into form. If that frequency is, "I always have to prove my worth," you'll keep encountering situations where you're tested. If that frequency is, "Good things don't last," you'll keep receiving blessings that slip away. This isn't energetic punishment. This is precision. The field is loyal to your inner broadcast, not your outer performance. As Deepak Chopra teaches, the universe responds to the vibration of feeling, not the language of thought. And as Bruce Lipton reminds us, the subconscious is a biological pattern, not just a mental one. It lives in your muscle memory, your reaction speed, your ability to rest without guilt. So if you're trying to call in a new timeline, but your body still contracts when you feel seen, the field registers your truth as visibility is a threat. The field doesn't take orders. It takes resonance. And here's the part most people miss. You don't shift the field by manipulating it. You shift it by retuning your own signal at the root. That means slowing down, listening, getting radically honest about what's still humming beneath your surface. Not to judge it, but to witness it. Because once that inner frequency is finally seen, felt, and held, it no longer needs to repeat externally. You become whole. And when you're whole, your signal becomes clear. And when your signal is clear, the field responds accordingly. It's not your desire that manifests, it's your energetic integrity. You've said the affirmations, you've made the vision board, you've visualized every morning with intention. So why does it still feel like nothing's changing? Because manifestation doesn't respond to what you say. It responds to whether your entire being is in agreement. And for most people, it's not. Their thoughts speak one frequency. Their emotions radiate another. Their body broadcasts something entirely different. That's not coherence. That's fragmentation. And fragmentation is why so many spiritual seekers loop in frustration. Coherence is when your mind, heart, and nervous system speak the same language. It's not just clarity, it's congruence. It's when your desire for love isn't contradicted by a heart still gripped in fear. It's when your prayer for abundance isn't canceled out by a body that clenches in unworthiness. It's when your actions don't betray the affirmations you whispered at sunrise. Coherence is alignment in motion. It's not perfection, it's energetic honesty. And the field reads that instantly. As Dr. Joe Dispenza teaches, when thought, emotion, and behavior are aligned, you send a clear, coherent signal to the field. But most people are trying to send signals from a place of force. They're pushing thoughts that their body doesn't believe. They're repeating mantras while suppressing emotion. They're visualizing peace while vibrating with panic. So what happens? Collapse. Not because they're weak, but because their signal is incoherent. The mind is in the future, the heart is stuck in the past, and the body is caught in survival. No wonder the field returns echoes of confusion. The field doesn't respond to contradiction. It responds to stability. So if your signal keeps breaking, if you feel like you're almost there but keep snapping back, you're not out of alignment. You're out of integration. And the solution isn't to think harder, it's to regulate deeper. It's learning how to stabilize your nervous system so that your biology stops fighting your theology. So your body becomes a safe place to hold what your soul already knows is true. You're not just here to believe in expansion, you're here to embody it. That means slowing down enough to notice when your breath tightens, when your jaw locks, when your chest closes at the edge of breakthrough. And in those moments, choosing not to collapse, but to cohere. Not because you feel euphoric, but because you're choosing to stay present through discomfort. That is quantum maturity. Not high vibration, but high honesty. Not forced positivity, but deep alignment. You don't manifest from surface level intention. You manifest from energetic consistency. So if the field hasn't shifted yet, ask not what more you need to say, but where within you the signal is still divided. Because when your system becomes one voice, not three conflicting tones, the field won't resist you. It will recognize you. And in that moment, your manifestation won't be something you chase. It will be something that meets you, because you are now a clear mirror, reflecting exactly what you're ready to hold. Your breakdowns aren't betraying you. They're showing you where the healing is begging to begin. We often view emotional resistance as failure, a setback, a sign that we've regressed or fallen off the path. But what if resistance isn't the enemy? What if resistance is the roadmap? Because the truth is, resistance isn't random. It's the subconscious trying to protect a wound it thinks is still exposed. That pang of jealousy, that rush of fear before speaking your truth, that wall you hit right before success, all of it is sacred data, not proof that you're broken, proof that a part of you is asking to be seen, softened, and sanctified. We don't feel resistance when we're disconnected. We feel it when we're getting close to power, close to a version of us we haven't yet felt safe embodying, close to a frequency we prayed for, but haven't learned how to hold. So resistance spikes. Why? Because the body remembers when rising led to rejection, when speaking led to punishment, when opening up led to pain. And the body doesn't measure time. It measures safety. It doesn't care if it's been 20 years. If you never updated the belief, the body still protects the wound. That's why so many people backslide after progress. Not because they lack discipline, but because they hit an internal firewall their system thinks is life-saving. And here's what most miss. That resistance isn't weakness. It's wisdom. It's the nervous system saying, I remember what happened the last time we tried to shine. Please, go slow. This is where trauma and theology must hold hands. Because you cannot quantum leap past your nervous system. You can't pray your way around your body's alarm bells. You must co-regulate with love, again and again. In other words, you don't overcome resistance by force. You transform it by presence. You sit with the discomfort without abandoning yourself. You breathe with the fear without silencing it. You ask not, how do I shut this down? But what is this showing me? Because in every emotional spike, there is a memory calling for mercy, a version of you that never got held, a decision you made long ago that's still governing your reality. So instead of fighting the spike, let it reveal the root. What belief lives under this emotion? What age does this pain belong to? What story still plays beneath this pattern? This is not therapy. This is spiritual excavation. Because what you uncover in resistance is often the exact key to unlock your next timeline. You weren't blocked. You were being redirected inward. Resistance says, there is more to hold here, more to integrate, more to meet with compassion. And when you choose presence instead of panic, resistance begins to dissolve. Not because it's been crushed, but because it's been heard. And the moment that happens, your field shifts. Your coherence deepens. Your system stops bracing and starts trusting. This is how revelation is born. In the places you once avoided, in the emotions you once resisted, in the wounds you now dare to bless. Because the loops you keep repeating aren't signs you're stuck. They're signs that the Spirit is still speaking. Are you listening? You don't just need new thoughts. You need a new agreement with yourself. At the core of every self-sabotage is a silent covenant, an internal vow, a soul-level contract you didn't realize you signed. It sounds like, I'll never be too much if I stay quiet. I'll always be loved if I never shine too bright. If I keep myself small, I'll stay safe. These are not just thoughts. They are agreements with survival. Agreements made in moments of pain, rejection, or abandonment. When your system learned that being fully you was not fully welcome. And here's the secret most don't know. You don't break those agreements by yelling louder affirmations. You break them by rewriting the covenant, by choosing to let your soul lead the signal, because the soul was never afraid to be seen. The soul doesn't fear expansion. The soul doesn't collapse under shame. The soul remembers heaven. The soul remembers wholeness. And your healing begins the moment you say, that old vow no longer protects me. It imprisons me. And I am ready to choose again. That's when real alignment happens. When your mind is not the CEO, but the steward. When your body is not the battlefield, but the sanctuary. When your voice isn't just for pleasing others, but for prophesying truth into your reality. To shift your signal, you must let go of the part of you that's still apologizing. Apologizing for needing rest. Apologizing for taking up space. Apologizing for carrying divine fire in a world that taught you to dim it. You are not here to edit yourself into acceptance. You are here to embody the covenant that was always yours. I am already chosen. This is not spiritual bypass. This is spiritual return. Back to the place before the pain rewrote your worth, and back to the truth your soul never forgot. And here's what happens when you let your soul lead. Your nervous system begins to stabilize, your boundaries sharpen, your choices align, and your frequency becomes non-negotiable. Why? Because you're no longer seeking permission to be whole. You're remembering that you already are. This inner covenant is not a one-time ritual. It's a daily choice to speak truth when silence feels safer, to stand tall when fear says shrink, to declare with your very energy, I no longer worship the version of me that survived. I now serve the version of me that's ready to live fully. This is how timelines collapse. This is how quantum shift becomes inevitable. Not through force, but through surrender to your truest signal. And when the field meets that level of coherence, it cannot help but respond in kind. Not because you forced it, but because you remembered you are the agreement, you are the altar, you are the activation. Your new timeline isn't something you visit. It's something you become stable enough to stay in. Once your signal changes, once you've released the old covenants, rewired your core agreements, and remembered who you are in spirit, something sacred begins. The shift arrives. Not as a flash of fireworks, but as an invitation to embody stability in a whole new frequency. And this is where most people unintentionally reverse their progress. Because they feel the newness, then panic. They sense the expansion, then sabotage. Why? Because safety is louder than desire. And if the body hasn't caught up with the soul's revelation, it will try to drag you back to the familiar. It's not evil. It's automatic protection. The ego whispers, don't get too comfortable. This might vanish. Remember what happened last time? Be realistic. Don't expect too much. But you weren't reborn to be realistic. You were reborn to be restored. And that means learning to hold peace without waiting for it to be taken. To hold visibility without waiting for the backlash. To hold joy without bracing for the crash. Because your capacity to hold determines whether the shift stays or slips. This is where quantum mastery begins. Not in creating something new, but in maintaining your coherence inside the new. And coherence doesn't mean perfection. It means returning. Returning to breath when fear spikes. Returning to truth when memory echoes. Returning to the altar within you when old thoughts knock on the door. Your nervous system will test you. Not because you're failing, but because you're integrating. Because your biology is learning how to feel safe in the blessing you once feared. This is why the journey doesn't end at breakthrough. It starts there. Because the real question is, can you stay in the timeline you prayed for without defaulting back into defense? This is where you shift from seeker to steward. From student to signal, from one who desires to one who embodies. You stop auditioning, you stop begging, you stop outsourcing your identity to external signs, because now the frequency is you, and the universe doesn't need convincing anymore. It simply needs confirmation. Confirmation that you're available for what you said you wanted. Confirmation that you'll hold the vibration without a leash of fear. Confirmation that you're not just inspired, you're anchored. This is not about clinging, it's about consistency. You become the new reality by behaving in accordance with it, not just thinking about it. That means boundaries that match your new worth, habits that match your new values, relationships that honor your expanded energy. You don't have to force anything. You simply stop negotiating with the parts of you that once settled. And when the past does try to pull you back, because it will, you don't panic. You pause. You breathe. You bless the old story for what it taught you. Then you choose again. Because this time, You're not moving from lack. You're not manifesting from fear. You're not chasing a future to escape a present. You're broadcasting from wholeness. And when that becomes your baseline, the quantum field doesn't just respond. It aligns around you. Not because you manipulated the outcome, but because you finally became the one who could hold the outcome without losing yourself. This is your true power, not to visit the high timeline, but to dwell in it, to live from it, to lead from it, to become a stable enough vessel that heaven can land in you and stay.